Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. Got my Expressions of Darth Vader mug again because I have my misunderstood Bad Boy Club sweatshirt on. When I saw this sweatshirt from Royal Coven, I was like, this sweatshirt was made for me and all of my favorite characters. Is it toxic, or is it understanding that these men are fantasy? So today's video is going to be all of the books that I'm going to be reading in May, my May TBR. Before we get into all of the books that I'm going to be reading in May, I wanted to kind of run some ideas by you guys and see what you think. So I had this idea of doing monthly TBRs where the entire month I'm reading one genre. Let me kind of explain what I was thinking. I read a lot of fantasy, so I'm sure there's going to be fantasy in these anyway, but I thought about doing months where I'm just reading strictly a certain type of fantasy or a certain genre that I don't necessarily read all the time, but I do enjoy on occasion, and then kind of comparing all of them that I read and giving you my thoughts and opinions on them. So what I was kind of thinking is I would do a month of fantasy romance. And fantasy romance would include things like From Blood and Ash, Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa, Neon Gods by Katie Robert, Fate and the Flame by Katie Tucker, kind of all of those fantasy romance books that you've seen on Book Talk or just kind of like these hyped fantasy romance novels. I thought it would be kind of fun for me to take a month and read a ton of them and then kind of come together and give you my thoughts on them, whether I think they're worth it, whether I think they're worth the hype, just kind of give you my opinions on which ones I think are good, bad, if I liked any of them, and just being able to read a ton in that genre and that kind of book talkness, and then just kind of be able to give you my rundown of my thoughts on them, and maybe you would be like, yeah, I've been really curious about all of those books, but I don't know which ones to read, or I don't know if I'll like them. Then maybe I could read a bunch of them and kind of give you my opinions and suggestions and recommendations on them. I thought that would be kind of a fun idea. So that was one of them, to do like an entire month of fantasy romance type books, which could include things like this, like The King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. So all of these books that you've been seeing coming out and coming out and coming out, like maybe I could just read them all and do that. And I think that would be a really fun thing to do. Another one I was thinking about doing was doing a whole month where all I read is historical romance. So you've heard me talk about A Rogue of One's Own and the A League of Extraordinary Women series by Evie Dunmore. So I was thinking about doing a whole month where I read books like this that I've obtained or that I can get my hands on, and kind of the same idea, being able to read a bunch of them in that genre and then be able to say, like, I think this one's worth it, I think you will like this book if you like this book. If you liked A Rogue of One's Own, I would suggest reading this. And just kind of being able to give you my thoughts on a ton of them at once and be able to compare and contrast. I would also entertain the idea, if you wanted me to do historical romance month, of reading a Bridgerton book potentially. Maybe not all of them, maybe not even the first one, but just like being able to pick one to read. I would entertain that idea if you would like to see that. But yeah, I thought that would be a really fun idea, and so if you would like me to read a month of historical romance, please comment down below. I would actually really love to do a poll on what you guys would like to see in these monthly things. So if you do not follow me on Bookstagram, my tag is @RenegadeReader. And I know that's not my name on here, but that's my Bookstagram name. So if you want to go ahead and follow me there, I do want to post a poll to see what you guys would like to see. You can also comment below on my videos, but I'm just kind of trying to gauge this because I think it would be a really fun thing to do. And I'm probably going to do it anyway. I'm probably going to start it next month, but I also don't necessarily want to if none of you guys want to see that. So I'm just curious to see what your opinions are. Another one I was thinking about doing, so you can have this in the back of your minds too, was doing just a month of YA fantasy, and more specifically YA fantasy that's like older. So like Girl of Fire and Thorns, Heart of Thorns, Fallen Kingdoms, Ash Princess, you know, just a lot of those older series. And maybe it doesn't have to be like super old, like 10 years old, but just not brand new. I thought about like doing a whole month where all I do is read those types of series, or at least the first ones in those series, and then kind of compare and contrast those as well. So if you would be interested in me doing kind of monthly TBRs like that, maybe not every single month, but just kind of interspersed, or just interested in me doing like a specific genre every month, please comment down below because I really do want your opinions. And again, follow me on Instagram @RenegadeReader. I will put out a poll after this video goes up and see what you guys think. After I threw all that out there and gave you some stuff to think about, let's get into all the books that I'm planning on reading in May. So one of the books that I'm planning on reading in May is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is book 2 in the Scholomance series. lesson 2 of the Scholomance. And the first book in this series was A Deadly Education, which I actually really enjoyed, despite there being a lot of mixed opinions or negative opinions of that book. I thought it was a lot of fun, and so I've been wanting to continue the series, and I figured now was a good time to do that. And the third one does come out this year, so I would be prepared for that launch. So yeah, I would like to get to book 2 and kind of continue the story. Obviously, I can't give you the plot of this one, but basically A Deadly Education is around a magical school where you go and you either graduate or you die. And basically these students are all in this school, in the Scholomance. You go there like as a freshman, you're there all 4 years continuously. And there are like monsters unleashed, not like unleashed, but there's like monsters everywhere in the school, these dangerous magical monsters and things that are trying to kill you, and you have to kind of make alliances and do a lot of different things to be able to get your projects done and just stay alive. And so I thought it was a lot of fun, and I'm curious to see how book 2 goes. So this is the first one that I would like to read in May. The next one I would like to read in May that I've really wanted to read and have been pushing off, maybe not even pushing it off, but I just haven't been making it a priority and haven't been picking it up, and that is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This is the same author as the Red Queen series that I have never read, but this synopsis of this book and like taglines of this book really caught my attention, and so I was really curious about this. It is following really morally gray characters, and kind of the way this was pitched to me, and I'm not exactly sure about the whole plot of this, but kind of the way it was pitched to me is that the villain gets the girl type of a story, and I'm all about that. And that's what really drew me to this book, and truly I didn't know much about it other than that, and I was like, I'm down, I want to read it. I'll just kind of read you what it says about the back, because it has all 6 of the characters on here, and it says, a squire, the survivor of a failed quest, an immortal, timeless and unfathomable, an assassin, skilled and heartless, an old sorceress holding secrets behind her teeth, and a pirate's daughter, the ward's last hope. Oh, I'm sorry, there's 5 people. The heroes are gone, but the fight to save the world has just begun. So it sounds like very morally gray, very villainous, and just kind of political and great. And so I've been really interested in this. And so when I was thinking about what I was going to read this month and kind of blanking and thinking of ideas, this one came to mind, and I thought it was fantastic because I've been really wanting to read it. And the second one does come out in June or July, sometime this summer. So hopefully I can read this in preparation for that. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. And to feed my ever-growing and ever-present dragon need, I decided that this month I wanted to read A Court of Dragons by Frost K. This is book 1 in the Dragon Isles series. I don't know how many books are planning on being in the series, but it sounded fun, and so I grabbed this first one. The cover's kind of cool too, even though it's got a lot of people on it. And on the back it says, as a daughter of the dragon court, Ren knows 3 truths. Never show weakness, pay the tithe, and never trust the elves. And so basically what happens is she's about to get married, and on the eve of her wedding, the enemy attacks her home. She is captured and she's dragged before the enemy, and she's given 2 choices, death or marriage to the elven king. She decides to go ahead and do so, trying to bide her time in order to kill him, to be able to take back the throne from the elves. But then, of course, as with many forced marriages, she starts to kind of potentially develop feelings for him and kind of go back and forth on if she can do what she's supposed to or not. But she also understands that she cannot question her loyalties, and it's either his heart or hers. And so the fact that this is surrounding a dragon court is amazing, and why I want to read this, and hopefully I really enjoy it because this premise sounds cool. The next one I want to read around that same vein is Fireheart by Emma Hamm. This is the Bookish Box edition, which is super cool, which I've talked about in my book haul video. But this is also a very dragon-centered story, which was so fun. And basically the main character is half-elf, where elf in this world is synonymous with slave. And so she's like very lowly, and she's just trying to stay alive because the king is really ruthless, and his pet dragon is known for its ferocity and ruthlessness. But then a rebel group approaches her and asks for her help, and she has to take their offer. And the idea is that she would marry the king and then be able to kill him. But in order to do so, she has to enter these like bridal games, and it's like a bridal tournament, which sounds crazy. So she has to like go through all of these trials to become like the king's bride, or potentially become the king's bride, but she sees like one big obstacle that's standing in her way, and that's the king's dragon. So his bodyguard is a dragon, but the dragon is also a man. So I guess it's a shape-shifting scenario. And the more that she's trying to get close to this creature, the more she realizes maybe the creature is more dangerous than the king. and I'm assuming a romance ensues, but it just sounds really interesting. And it has dragons, and that's all I care about is dragons. So this sounds really fun, and hopefully I can get to this in May. Another one that I would really love to get to if I can, as it's a new release coming out, is The Book of Night by Holly Black. This is Holly Black's debut adult fantasy novel, and so it sounds really fun, even though I wasn't a big fan of The Cruel Prince. Kind of what I know about this is that it's like a vampire fantasy novel. I'm sure there's more plot points and things like that I've discussed in previous videos when talking about this being one of my anticipated releases for the year, and that's just kind of evading me right now because I just remember it sounded so good and it was vampire related. If I'm thinking of the right book, this is like an underground blood lab or like blood trading. I'm really blanking on this, I'm so sorry, but I've talked about this book before and I've been really interested in it because it's Holly Black's adult novel. I'm going to read it, so hopefully I can read it in May. Sorry that I failed on describing that one for you, but my brain just can't remember the details at the moment. Another one that I would like to continue if I have time is The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Spoiler alert for my reading wrap up, I did read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and it was fun. I really liked it. So I would like to see how the story continues, and so I would like to get to this book if I can. It was really easy to like read and listen to, so I would hope that this would just be kind of an enjoyable thing I could pick up in May and to be able to continue the story, as there are like 3 more books in this series, I believe. So I'm just trying to play catch up at this point. Hopefully I can read this. If you don't know about the first one, From Blood and Ash, you're following Poppy, who is the maiden, and that's kind of like a very, very mysterious thing. Like, she's just not supposed to experience pleasure. She's not supposed to have like worldly connections. She's not supposed to have like friends. She's not supposed to have any desire or pleasure. And then she gets a new guard, and she's like guarded all the time and has to wear a shroud. And then she gets a new guard, Hawk, who is kind of trying to romance her in a sense, but also kind of showing her that maybe what she's believed about being a maiden is wrong or not what she thinks it is. And there's also this thing called the Ascension, that she's supposed to be pure enough to ascend. And there's a lot of mystery surrounding that, and you don't really know what that means. And I feel like if you describe any bit of what that means, you would ruin the book for you. So you can't really say what it means, but maybe there's a lot more to this than what she thinks. And maybe she's being kept in the dark about a lot of this for a reason, and Hawk is kind of trying to explain, to show her a different way. So it was a fun read. I liked it. It was a good time. It wasn't as spicy and romantic as I thought it was going to be, which I really appreciated, but I'm sure that will change in these other books. But I kind of liked the first book, so hopefully I can get to this soon and we'll see what I think about it. All right, and the last book that I will read in May will be my shelf pick, so let me get my jar, my Boba Fett jar, and shake this up. You should know this by now, but if you don't, every month on my channel, I've been putting these types of books, my special edition books that come in book boxes, or that I bought special edition that have these like really pretty straight edges that I sometimes turn around and face the other way. So I don't always have the chance to read them because I kind of avoid them because they're pretty, or I don't think about them. I just stare at the pretty pages and then they don't get read. And I've been trying to work on getting more of those read. And so I've been putting all of them in my jar, and I add them every time I get a new one. Then I draw one out every month. And so I'm gonna draw one out this month, and we'll see what I'm gonna be reading. So let me get in here. I always get really nervous about this, but there's no reason to be that nervous. I just am. All right, so this month I got The Gilded Cage. Okay, so I drew The Gilded Cage. Let me just grab that real quick. So I drew The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. This is the second book in the Prison Healer series. I believe it's just a trilogy, but that's really funny because I did read The Prison Healer this year and wasn't sure when I was gonna get to the second one, so I guess it's gonna be now. And in The Prison Healer, basically you're following the main character who is working in a prison. She's basically been there since she was a child. Her father was a doctor, and so she knows how to do medical stuff. And so she is the prison healer, which kind of gives her a little bit of protection while she's in the prison. And this prison is like terrifying and you can't get out of it, and they're really mistreated there. And this mysterious illness starts kind of sweeping through and killing a bunch of the prisoners. And then there's also a rebellion from the outside that the rebel queen is sent to the prison, and her parents are a part of the rebellion, and she is told, "Don't let her die, we are coming." And the queen is supposed to go into these elemental trials to determine her sentence, but she is ill, and so she cannot compete. So the main character takes that upon herself to enter these elemental trials to try to keep the queen alive before her family will come save her. And I did enjoy the first book. I thought it was really good, so it's gonna be fun to get to the second one, and hopefully I can do that soon. So those are all the books that I'm trying to read in May. It'll be a lot of fun. There's also a lot of books, so we'll see if I can get to all of them. I would love to know what you're planning on reading in May. I'm sure a lot of you are going to read The Book of Night, as I'm going to try to read. And let me know what you think of my TBR for this month. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye. Alright, I am gonna go play Lego Star Wars, the Deluxe Skywalker Saga. I cannot wait. I was so pumped to get this game and I cannot wait. So I'm gonna go play that right now. Peace.